Oh, hi, how you doing? This is Josh. So I don't always typically review streaming movies. I've done it before, but in these videos here on YouTube anyway, I usually save streaming stuff for the podcast or some kind of maybe Patreon exclusive. But, when the most expensive Netflix movie ever, and probably the most expensive movie of this year is made, you gotta just stand up and pay attention, right? And this has happened, and it is the Russo brothers, The Electric State on Netflix. This movie is huge. Netflix has had such an interesting trajectory, story. It's crazy since they went from mailing DVDs to people's houses to making original content. It's been really interesting to see what they invest in and what they won't invest in. And they mostly, there was a brief period there where they were making these deals with prestige filmmakers, and, Cuarón and Scorsese and others were making, and Fincher were making like Netflix exclusive movies. And it was exciting, although I would always rather see a great filmmaker's new film in a movie theater. So it always feels compromised to watch it. Even on a nice 4K TV with good sound in the dark, it's not the same as going to the movies. But now we're in the era of, Red Notice and these kind of huge, actiony, nothing Netflix movies. And the Russo brothers, who have tried really desperately to leverage, the huge success of their Marvel run of especially Infinity War and Endgame. They've tried to take that magic and turn it into other franchises, other movies, other opportunities. And this has to be the most disastrous failure of those attempts in this movie. So I wasn't even going to watch this movie, and then it just was like, well, I don't know, why not? It was a thing to do. I admit I was morbidly curious, although I don't know that I went in as a hater. I want movies to be entertaining and good, and I thought maybe this will be better than it looks, and it's not. This movie is based on beloved source material. People say that the book is good. Hi, neighbor. Fine, I'll probably never know. But there are undeniable parallels to be drawn to Ready Player One, also based on a somewhat, in certain sectors, beloved piece of source material, but directed by, master storyteller Steven Spielberg. I am not a huge fan of Ready Player One, but it makes an interesting comparison to this movie, because there is a story, and there is a thing going on. There is an aesthetic, and there is a choice to leverage existing movie brands, game brands, and bring all these worlds colliding together into a whole lot of noise and nonsense. But it makes choices and commits to them. Whereas I feel like The Electric State is this baffling mishmash of you got big stars, I guess, emerging stars, Millie Bobby Brown and Chris Pratt, who has been in streaming sci-fi movies before that were better than this, not by much, but there's so many actors in this you can't believe that they got, from Giancarlo Esposito and Coleman Domingo shows up, and Stanley Tucci, Ke Huy Quan, and Jason Alexander is weirdly in this movie. It is just, I'm sure I'm leaving some out. It's a huge cast. Brian Cox is the voice of a robot. So anyway, I'm all over the place. Sorry, but you probably know what this is, I guess, because it's a cultural thing. But it's Netflix. Whenever there's it's a $350 million movie, and it's on Netflix, and it's very skippable, and it's very missable, and it's just, I don't know that this movie wouldn't be better if it had been released in theaters. It just would be a different kind of moment. It would have a different kind of opportunity, I think. And also, Netflix. You can't hide the budget of a movie, I suppose. In the industry, it gets out, and we know the budget of this movie. But Netflix keeps those numbers, the performance numbers, under their hat. So this might well be a hit for them in terms of viewership. I guess we won't know. They'll probably claim that it was the most viewed piece of visual content on Earth in history, but we'll never know. So, but okay, so it's got all these elements. It's got these recognizable actors. It's got this incredibly derivative story about a robot war. It's an alternate history thing in this case. So the story's in the 90s, but things played out in an alternate timeline where Walt Disney was the one who pioneered robotics, and he made them into the norm in society, but then there was a rebellion and there was a war and all this stuff. And there's so many baffling things about this movie, like why isn't it good and entertaining? And how did these huge stars sign up for it? And how did it get funded and made? But in terms of the story, like on the one hand, this is a completely original yet wildly derivative, like robots versus human story with like proprietary characters, like I already forgot his name, Cosmo or whatever, like the little happy-faced robot is a proprietary character. There's all kinds of like unique characters, like a baseball robot and a mail delivery robot and a magician robot that are just made up from whole cloth to represent types of American things or cultural things that are represented in robotics. But then you've got things like a couple of brand names that sneak in, and you've got Mr. Peanut, the mascot of Planters Peanuts, who is the leader of the robot resistance. And you have scenes and lines like Mr. Peanut signed a peace treaty with President Clinton. And this is not unfrosted. This is not a joke. This is not a comedy. Why is that one character a recognizable mascot who's a robot and who's the leader of the robots? Is it like this movie plays out like unfinished, uncontextualized concept art for some crazy idea that was never made? The robots look cool. Some of the robots look great. There's a huge one named Herman who can get in these increasingly big, like he can pilot bigger versions of himself. And the movie has a little bit of fun with that. And visually, that stuff is interesting. The scale of the robots, I think by and large, they're hideous and weird looking. And one of them is Mr. Peanut. I don't know if I mentioned that. Maybe somebody will actually me in the comments about why that's significant. It's insane, right? And he's voiced by Woody Harrelson, which is even weirder. But like, how did Planters agree to this? I guess they saw Russo brothers, Netflix, $350 million and thought we can be involved in something huge. What does this do for their brand? What does this do for Planters Peanuts? It's insane. This movie is bad, but it's not even really the fun kind of bad because it's long, it's derivative. Everything in it you've seen in another movie. There's some splashes of interesting design. Like I say, it feels like some interesting concept art was brought to life in this movie, but they forgot to flesh out any other aspect of the production. And so it's for nothing. It feels empty. It feels weird. It feels abrasive to the mind. This movie, I think, is pretty calamitous. Even though it's competently made, that's the thing. I've talked about this before, how like bad movies used to be, taped together and just like incompetently constructed and amazing jarring to watch. Now bad movies are made by pipelines that pump out this kind of entertainment. They're made competently, they're made confidently, they're just empty. There's just nothing going on. And that's unfortunately the case with The Electric State. This movie is nothing. It just ultimately is nothing. It's the waste of some talented performers' time. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of some artists' time. And I feel bad for the Russo brothers because they're responsible for some very, good entertainment that pops, and I hope they find their way. I guess it's going back to Marvel and doing more Avengers movies, but that seems kind of sad. And they have a big uphill battle on that anyway. So I'm sorry that I don't bring you gladder tidings than this, but maybe the next movie I watch will be good. Thanks for watching. You can see all my videos here on the channel. You can see them early on Patreon. You can support me over on patreon.com/JoshWay. Riffs and videos and other stuff coming soon. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you later. Bye.